You know, every once in a while, I get the urge to venture out beyond my little bubble of anime and manga and check out what the West is doing in the world of animation. Most of the time I'm left disappointed, but every once in a while I'll find a diamond in the rough, and Primal is definitely one of those diamonds that's worth your attention. It's a show that fires on all cylinders, with a unique art style, fluid animation, killer sound design, and a compelling story. In fact, it's won 3 Emmys for its outstanding animation. It balances the brutality and beauty of prehistoric times perfectly, and tells an amazing story, all without the characters speaking a single word. It's a dog-eat-dog world where the strongest and smartest survive, which I think will really appeal to you if you're a fan of survival games. Being made for the late-night channel Adult Swim allows it to include gore and themes relevant to adults that you'll definitely enjoy if you're a fan of seinen anime and manga. The prolific creator and director Genndy Tartakovsky is known for shows like Samurai Jack, Star Wars Clone Wars, and Dexter's Lab, but I think Primal is his best work yet. So how about we talk a little more about why this show is so great and why you should watch it. So, our story begins with an unlikely friendship between a resourceful caveman and a female T-Rex who bond over losing their families. Neither of them have names either, so I only know they're referred to as Spear and Fang by looking it up after the fact. But they end up joining forces and face the horrors of their world together. Which, by the way, is just super awesome. I mean, he rides a freaking T-Rex like a horse, and they kill basically anything that crosses their path. And the beasts and monsters that cross their path are no joke either. The enemies are usually giant beasts, but if they're smaller, there will most likely be an entire army of them. Part of the fun of the show is seeing how Spear and Fang figure out how to kill these daunting enemies, which is always done in very creative ways to keep things interesting. Some of the monsters are fictional and some are real, but they're always very terrifying. Not to mention that sometimes even the real animals look like they've been juiced up on steroids since they were born. And there's also a few magical, fantasy, and horror elements thrown into the mix to spice things up a bit. As you can probably tell, Spear and Fang are in a terrifying prehistoric world where it's survival of the fittest. If they're not hunting, they're being hunted by some of the terrifying monsters that live in this time period. The action never lets up in this show either. Just when you think they're safe and out of harm's way, something happens and just like that, they're swept into life-threatening danger again. The fight scenes are always very brutal and intense as well. You'll see your fair share of blood and gore, which make it even more satisfying when they get a kill against a tough enemy. The art and animation really help the action shine too. The art has a very unique style to it and has slightly chalky outlines which distinguish it from other animated shows. All the shots are so well thought out that they almost have an artistic quality in and of themselves. And the animation just looks amazing, by really packing a punch during the action sequences and indicating a sense of urgency with something as simple as running. I mean, it might just be me, but I found watching Spear running around to be extremely satisfying, which I feel shows how much attention to detail they put into the animation. So I feel it's well deserved that they won 3 Emmys for the animation. Though where I feel the show really distinguishes itself is with its unique storytelling. As I mentioned earlier, there's almost no talking in the entire show, which may be a bit jarring if all you're used to is shows where there's tons of dialogue all the time. And this makes sense considering they're in the prehistoric period where language hadn't really developed yet. The most you'll get is grunts, roars, smiles, and occasionally talking in a different language that neither the characters or you as the viewer will really understand. Which, by the way, I usually found it funny when Spear would smile for some reason. I guess it's because he's usually so serious that his smile just looks so out of place to me. But I digress. This lack of dialogue is a shining example of show don't tell storytelling, which really allows the reader to piece together what is going on just by the visual elements. Although I will admit sometimes I lost focus because there was no dialogue to keep me engaged constantly. But I think this is also a strength in the way that there can be some meditative, almost ASMR-like moments in the show where you're not having to use your brain all the time. I should also mention that the sound design and music is done really well here. Since there's no talking, the music and sound effects give you a lot of context clues and play a larger role than your typical show with dialogue. And I should say too that you will really feel for these characters, which is no small feat due to not even being able to hear them speak. You will root for Spear and Fang and cheer them on against the many enemies they will encounter along their journey. and you'll enjoy seeing how they learn to get along and work together without being able to speak to each other. One of the lessons that I took away from it was that you can count on others in your time of need. Spear and Fang constantly rely on one another, and they both cross the ocean on a small raft for another human they recently met later on. The time period of the show is also something that I found very unique to adult programming. Typically you'll see dinosaurs in children's or family shows, but rarely do you see them depicted in such a harsh and cruel world. I found myself very excited about this simple concept just after the first episode. Later down the line we're introduced to other humans as well, some of which are good and some are bad. You'll meet Mira, the Scorpion clan of Vikings, a cruel Egyptian pharaoh, and her giant African captive. You don't often see dinosaurs, Vikings, and Egyptians in the same show, but it's done in a way that blends these groups well despite them never existing at the same time in the real world. From season 3 onward, the creator has said that Primal will be an anthology series, so I'm stoked to see what new characters they'll bring to the table to replace Spear and Fang. When all's said and done, I think that you'll really enjoy this show, whether you're an anime fan, survival gamer, or just somebody who can appreciate a show that excels in all facets. If you've already watched or decided to watch the show, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And if you got any value from this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I typically focus on anime and manga, so if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love to have you join the journey. I hope you have a great day, and peace out.